तर कॅपजेमिनीमध्ये होता तिथून हे केलं त्याला.
ऑन साइड गेलेले का?
हं. नाही, नाही कॅपजेमिनी काढलं म्हणून तिकडे गेला तो.
अच्छा.
सेटिंग असेल काहीतरी फ्रेंड सर्कल वगैरे.
हम्म. ते आंध्राचे खूप लोक आहेत ना तिकडे.
जास्त
कुठे ना कुठे.
जास्त जास्त असतात. एनिवेज so uh, earlier we have seen about the EC2 instance, right? So when we design the if we need to perform any operations like if you want to run any applications or any script from the EC2 instance, so we need to maintain the server 24 by 7, right, running. But in the Lambda cases, if you want to perform any operations like reading the data from the S3 bucket storage or any RDS services like reading any tables, records, if you want to read. So the main difference between EC2 instance and the Lambda function is basically Lambda functions we don't need to run 24 by 7 as we run for the EC2 instance, right? Because EC2 instance doesn't have a feature directly to call for the particular timing. I mean, we need to run 24 by 7, 24 by 7 to running, make it the running status. So Lambda function has that feature. If we look at the costing for the Lambda function, so it will charge based on our use cases basically, how much CPU we use and memory utilization. According to that, we will get the charges. So we don't need to run 24 by 7 basically for the Lambda functions. Let's say if you want to run for the suppose in the entire 24 hours, if you execute only for the one time or two times, only that part we will get the charges. So like similar to EC2 instance, we don't need to run 24 by 7 basically. If you select Mumbai region, so you can see the cost per GB basically. First 6 billion GB per seconds per month, the cost will be very cheaper. It's in a point something. There are different categories which we can select, but as a normal standard Lambda pricing, we can see the memory utilization. Maximum memory utilization we can assign around 15 MB. Sorry, not 15 MB. We will check with the configuration because recently they have upgraded the limitations. But you can see on this costing part. So based on whatever we have consumed the memory, so according to that we will get the charges. And we don't need to run 24 by 7 to get the unnecessary cost like a storage cost or any operation cost. So that is the main difference between EC2 instance and Lambda function basically. So Lambda function supports different kind of runtime basically. If we just search Lambda function here, and if we can just simply go to create function, either you can use their existing any templates or we can create from the scratch. Okay, so we can just simply give the name Lambda function. Let's say hello world. It already exists. Okay, and in the runtime, if you have expertise in .NET, Go language, Java, Node.js, or Python or something, or if you have a standard in your project, like because every project has their standard to use any particular languages like Node.js, Python, or any other like Java or something, C sharp. So if you have a standard for the Node.js or something, so you can use that. And if you have a skill set that then it will gives benefit basically. So you can for the best practice you need to use latest version basically, because now Node.js 14 is almost end of life, already end of life. Okay, and now they are suggested to use latest support 18. Okay, so then you can just Lambda function need one execution rules which we will get it will get basic permissions to execute the Lambda function. Either if you have any existing IMA roles, sorry, not roles, users, so we can select from here. Okay, If you don't have any existing IMA user roles, so we can create from here, create new role with basic Lambda function permission basically, and we can simply, we don't need to select this, just simply create Lambda function. So by default, it will create one hello world basically, hello world sample code, and this Lambda function we can use as a from the API gateway or a load balancer. We will check that option how we can configure. So Lambda function creates doesn't take more time basically, as we have seen the EC2 instance take more time, you know. So once the Lambda function created, there is lots of option you can see here. From the actions, you can see you can publish new version, the new deployment, or you can export the Lambda function. Okay, if you have any particular Lambda function, let's say now we have just hello world, and if you can just suppose if someone asks like can you download this Lambda function and just give me inside your project basically, not the external one. So from action button you can just export it simply, and you can just download as a zip file. So your Lambda function or whatever the package there in the in the Lambda function, that will bundle in this zip file, and then you can share this Lambda function to that specific team members. If I just open simply, you can see as of now I have just single files over here, single files. Okay, and in the coding side, you can see either you can directly write down the code here whatever you have operations. Okay, or you can just, if you are using any pipeline like Jenkins or GoCD something, though in the github git repository basically, you can write down there in the for the branching in particular branch according to your Jira task. Okay, suppose let's say I'm just, let me first test it, so I, and then I will show you other options. Let's say you have write down one Lambda function and you want to test it. Okay, simply just click on this test button and you need to give the event name, any name you can give, and you can just simply save it, and then just again, if you just click on that, you will see here hello from Lambda. Okay, this is the default configuration. If I just change it, let's say I'm just doing some changes, AWS patch. Okay, and then you need to first deploy it. Okay, it will deploy the changes and you can just simply again, you can see the changes has been done. Okay, so this way you can just write down your Lambda function code directly. Sometimes what will happen if you have any database operation, or you have written the node.js or Python code here, and you want to fetch a particular records from the database, so that need supported a library, right, in the node Lambda function, which is yeah, if you just write here, let's say Lambda sorry, we have one backend developer over there in the project, so he managing the all the Lambda function basically. So he has written one Lambda function to read data from the record from the database basically. So you can see you can write down this kind of Lambda function, but that Lambda function required a library, right, to support to get the connection string and all for the database. So that supported library we can uh, attach here when we deploy the Lambda functions by using CI/CD pipeline, or if you have any manual way, then you can just, if you have download any packages in the local, so you can just directly upload from here zip file. I will show you another existing Lambda function. There I have done the practice in the last project. I want to just go through the options first, option now. So later part we will see that how we can deploy that lambda layer feature basically. As of now you can able to see this lambda function code basically, and you can able to write down anything. But there are some limitation here. Code editor, after a certain limitation, I think 5 MB or something, you suppose if you have any library supported here, MySQL library or any other library, so that size considered for this lambda function. And in that case, if lambda function size exceeded, then you can't able to uh, write down here directly. Okay, you are not able to see the code basically here. So in that situation, you can use lambda layer feature there. There is additional feature from the lambda sites where you can attach your whatever the dependent libraries in the separate part. Okay, and then at that time you can able to see this lambda function code here directly in the code editor basically. From here you can, if you want to create any new files, you can create here file or folder, and you can just simply write down here. Okay, in the code properties you can see this package size basically. As of now we have only single file, and it has very limited data. So you can see here the size is very minimum. If I just copy this lambda function, we will not execute because it will not work. We need to provide all the database stuff here, right? If I just deploy these changes here, just remove that and just copy this one. Okay, and simply deploy. So this size will be changed because we have lots of record code now. See, the size has been changed, right? And tomorrow it's say someone will want to change any runtime version or something, so you can just directly change from here. You can just simply select it, whatever version you want to change, and you can just simply save it. The configuration level you don't need to deploy basically. You can just simply edit and save it. Just coding part, if you just make any changes here, then on in that situation you need to deploy it. Okay, here. And if you want to, suppose let's say in the configuration part, in general configuration, as of now you can see by default it selected the 128 memory, 120 MB, and timeout for the 3 seconds. Okay, let's say in the real time in the project you want to perform any queries like a database, reading the data or any writing the operations. Okay, whatever depend on the use cases. And in that situation, if the operation might take a longer period of time like 1 minute or something, in that situation you need to increase this timeout session. I think max supported is 15 minutes or something. Yeah, 15 minutes. Maximum supported time is 15 minutes basically. You can't give more than that. So maximum is 15 minute, but for now I'm just giving default one. Only if your operation time required more time like 1 minute or something, in that situation you can just change this value, otherwise not required. Memory also, if you require more memory here for the lambda functions, maximum is 10 GB value here, you can see 10 GB. Okay, beyond that you can't use because there are some certain limitation as well in the lambda functions. And if you just see the other options like trigger. Okay, in the trigger options you can just configure the event basically. In the Linux language we will see cron, right, cron job something, or any particular schedulers. So same way, there is no option to trigger any particular there are lots of trigger configuration available basically, but we normally use CloudWatch event here. If you just search event, it will come up this one, event bridge. Okay, So there are configuration, like if you want to use existing rules or create new one, you can just select according to that and just give the name, basically rule name. And if you want to run for particularly only once in a day, so we can just see the example here. If you just mention this example, then only it will execute once at a day, okay, not frequently. And if you want to run for the particular timing or something, you can use this kind of cron job, and you can mention the timing, basically whatever it is. Just make sure it will be a 24 by 24 24 time zone format, basically similar to train time format. So in that situation, you can mention accordingly. Suppose if you want to run evening 6 p.m., so you can just mention here, 18 something here, so it will execute. And also if you want to execute only for the particular day or something, you can just mention, otherwise you can just give star over there. And if you just select event pattern here, this is for the another purpose, so we don't need that. We just need to configure this cron job here, okay. And simply just click add here. Let's say, let me copy this one and simply click add. So whatever the operations we have written in the Lambda function, let's say we want to fetch data from the S3 bucket or something, so it will whatever the timing we have given here, like once in a day, so it will automatically execute this Lambda function. We don't need to run manually here, no, like we have just done for the test, right? If we just simply click on test, basically it will execute the Lambda function. But by using this trigger option, you can automatically trigger based on your timing, whatever the based on your requirement, basically. For now I'm just deleting it. And permission side, let's say now you have this role name, right? This one, if you just click on that, now you have configured the Lambda function with the IMA role for the S3 bucket operation. But in tomorrow, let's say the requirement got changed, you need to add one more Lambda function permission, where you can run the or reboot the EC2 instance, right, on the daily basis. Obviously we have another options like system manager, which we have seen in the last week, for the daily start and stop the servers. But we can we can have an option as well for the Lambda function. We can write down the Lambda function, but for that we need to add the Lambda EC2 instance role here, right? Permission, basically, otherwise it will give the error. So if you want to check this permission for this role for current permission, you can see there is a just a limited and basic permission. And if you want to add one more permission, just simply same process we need to follow as we have seen earlier. Just attach policy, and you can just simply search here EC2. Let's say if you want to give full permission, then you can just give EC2 full permission. And if you don't want to give the full permission, then you can just go with the custom policy as well, okay. If you just open here, open in the new tab, okay, and you can create the custom policy. Let's say I want to use this for Lambda function, okay.
We can invoke this Lambda function using the system manager as well. Just we need to give permission, right?
Yes,
Roles
permission is
for
required,
this.
yes. If there is a no permission, then it will simply give the error. So whatever the use cases, according to that you need to give the permissions. But make sure you should not assign the full permission, because if someone or any developer write down the wrong code, so it might get impacted for the other operations as well. Just make sure it should be restricted, like a reboot or any delete object or something. Full permission you should avoid. for granting, unless and until there is a such a requirement and the approval, proper approval, then only in that situation you can assign. But by default you should not assign for full access. There are other multiple options as well, like you can see the you can get the function url. Sometimes we need to configure the environment variables, right? In the code, lambda function code, we have any past, like no, in this one variable host, user and database, we can just use this variable in this one. That's in the configuration. I can just add host, and you can use your whatever the endpoint for the rds endpoint, basically whatever, and you can use in the lambda function code here to passing the variable. So this way you can use inside the lambda function code, you don't need to give the hard coded value basically here. You can use variables here configuration. And for the, let's say you want to access the database, right? rds database or any something. So let's take example for the rds. And obviously there is not a good practice to have your credentials here, right? For the security reasons, this account might have a multiple user access, right? They might get your passwords clearly. So in that case you can use vault here, secrets basically. And you can in the lambda function code you can pass that code, basically get the secrets from the secrets and use for the database basically. So in the real time I will try to get that code basically I have in the project. So I will not get exact code, but similar to, I will try to show you for the next tomorrow or something, so you can just understand how the connection string passing and how to use that. Okay, because on the I'm using the client mac basically, so sharing is not possible there due to some compliance issue. So but I will get the code that, so just you can just understand the how the lambda function we can write down and how we can get the secrets basically. Because storing password here in the plain text format, that is not basically acceptable in the real time. And obviously as a security practice, if someone have the audit, so they might be escalate for this. So they, in that situation we can use secrets.
We can store it in secret manager as well, right?
Yeah, that is the secret manager basically, I want to say secret manager.
I thought you are saying this vault, HashiCorp vault.
No, no, Ashika world nahi, secret manager basically.
Okay.
You can store here. You can just simply mention the username password and just simply there is a simple process to add basically. And you can use that by using lambda function code, you can just fetch it again.
I have a question here, like when we can use the parameter store and secret manager, like when to use what?
We use parameter store for the cdk purpose, but for the lambda function need to check, I think in the ssm, that one, right? In ssm service.
Yes, yes.
We are not storing any parameter here basically in the project, but when we deploy any cdk over there, so cdk version will store automatically here.
Okay.
Yeah,
It is just for the storing metadata or
need to check basically, because in the real time we have
okay.
not used. You can see other options as well, but that is not needed for now. Just let's say for the vpc basically, if you want to run the lambda function for any vpc inside the vpc for any operations like ac2 instance or any rds operations, in that situation you need to give the VPC here basically. So you can just simply select where the IDS or data EC2 instance is created. So in that VPC, we can just select here. Okay, let's say this one. So we can just simply select that, and whatever the subnets over there, security group also we need to select and save it. You can see here, right? The whatever the roles we have attached for this Lambda function, that doesn't have a EC2 level permission basically. This way. So in that situation, we can just go back and we can add the permission basically. So we have this user demo world, right? So we can just, for now I'm just giving the full permission, but in the real time we don't need to give. We need two permission basically, the VPC basic rules. This one Lambda VPC endpoint access. Okay, and just click on add. The permission has been added. So now we can just try to attach VPC here. If you are accessing any S3 bucket directly, you don't need to give this VPC here, because that is a that traffic will route from the public network. Okay, so let's say I am selecting this VPC, and you can select two subnet here, security groups. Okay, and just save. Again, he need create network interface on EC2. Okay, EC2 permission भी देना पड़ेगा. Let me try to give only read only permission. Okay, create network interface. Let me open Lambda function in another one, or I have one more user where I have given the full permission. Sometimes you will have, you might see this kind of situation, right? Here you can able to see the all the your Lambda function, right? But I just open in the new tab and I'm not able to see. So just don't panic, because it's automatically change the region here. Okay, so just select the right region here. Okay, sometimes it happens automatically from there, this console basically. So just route to proper region here. Okay, let me open this. This permission should be there. Lambda VPC, Lambda basic execution role basically. Let me add that. If I can try to attach the VPC, let me try. Create network interface on EC2. It might be required more permission. If I just use chat gpt here and just paste the error, okay, let's see what he can suggest. Lambda vpc access execution roles, okay, let's check we have added that role policy or not. Okay. Hmm. So this permission should be required to use VPC for the Lambda functions. Okay. AWS Lambda VPC access execution role. So if we just expand that policy, you can see the permissions basically. We were getting the issue related to this permission, right? Is to create network interface. So that permission has in this policy. Okay. So you can use ChatGPT for this purpose. Okay. Just make sure the steps are right here. Okay. So now coming to the monitoring part, we can monitor from the log as well here, okay, and the metrics as well. You can see the invocations metrics here, durations, how much time it will take, it's taken, the how many times we executed it. Okay, you can see the two dots here. If I just expand it, right, you can also use this icon here to expand it. Okay, maximize. And if you want to check for the particular time period logs or more metric monitoring part, basically you can just select here. Either you can select for the particular date or time, or you can just go with the relative options like last 3 months, 2 weeks, or 1 weeks or something. Okay, if someone asks you, just can you just share the graph for last one day or something, so you can use this monitoring tab here, and you can just select this, like let's say for the last one day, and you can just take a screenshot of this graph and you can share it with any developer or something, or whoever asks for you. You can see here. So we have executed only for 2 3 times, right? So that graph has been generated. If there are no consumption in the lambda function, then it will not trigger any graph basically. It will be like a plain graph there. And if you want to check the lambda function logs, so you can just select this log option, okay, and you can see here view CloudWatch logs here, right? You can see the log has been generated. So simply just click on that. It will route to that particular CloudWatch log group basically. Okay, and you can just see. If I just expand it, this one, you can see the event time basically here, the recent one we have, which we have executed, and you can see the details. Okay, for troubleshooting point of view, you can just uh, view the logs this kind of way. If you just expand it, like this way, you can see the error details basically. Just ignore this part just for them showing the demo purpose, but in the real time, if you have any specific error or there, you can find this way. Okay, and let's say you have a multiple huge logs there and the lots of keywords error, and you want to search only for the particular logs, like which keyword has been keyword similar to error or something. Okay, so there is options, log insights basically. Okay, let me open in new tab. Log insights, we can just query the logs from the log group basically. If there are multiple logs, so just going one by one and checking all the logs is very hectic process, right? Where is the error generated or something, there might be a info lines or something, but we want only keyword error basically. We want to see error log basically. Okay, so you can use log insights option. where you can query the into the log basically. Okay, just one thing here, you need to select the particular log group. Okay, let's say what is the log group for this demo world, right? You can see log groups demo world. Okay, just click on this and just search demo, and you can see demo world. Click on that. Okay, either you can go with the multiple option as well. Okay, and you can just, let's say, time period for, if you want to search for last 1 hour or something, you can just select the time period. And for now I'm just searching for the generic purpose. Okay, so whatever the logs we have generated in that log group, it will print as output here. Okay, but we don't need all the logs. We want to only wait the error generated basically. Okay, for the troubleshooting purpose. So there is one options we need to add basically. Let me check I have saved any queries. I haven't saved. Okay, let me search that. You can just write down to the chatbot. Give me log inside query where I can pull based on specific keyword. Okay, just one thing we need to add here, just filter basically. And if I just add that filter here, and you just need to replace the keyword here basically error, and just search that. If in the log group, if there are any error keyword available, then it will come here, right? You can see earlier we have seen lots of records, right? But now we have seen only 7 record, because that record has a keyword error. Okay, so this way you can use for the troubleshooting purpose. If you just expand it, you can see the detail error basically, why it's fail basically. Okay, so this way, and you can see the error here detail. So this way you can use this log inside feature to carry for the particular log group, to fetch the logs for particular keyword basically. Okay, as of now I'm just fetching the 20 lines, but in the project, if you want to fetch 20 print 20 200 lines, then you can just mention that, and you can just execute it. As of now we don't have too much lines, so it's just showing whatever the present. Okay, if I again remove this keyword and just execute, so whatever the records available, it will print like up to 200. As of now we have only 34. Okay, out of 34, if you want to print only 20 lines, okay, you can just give the limit here. You can see out of 34 it will print only 20 lines here. Okay, this one. This way you can use this lock inside feature basically. There might be a different queries, but depend upon your use cases, you can use according to that. And if you want to save this query for any future purpose, if you want to run again, okay, you can just simply, from this option, you can just save it. Okay, I can just mention the name like fetch error from log. Okay, you can just select option create new one, demo, and just save it.
Hello, I cannot hear. Hello,
हाँ, अभी आ रही है?
हाँ हाँ.
So what part you have missed basically?
I
So
think you're talking about this query.
yeah, so basically you can just save this query basically by using this save option, okay, and so it will saved under this queries folder basically, and you can use this for future perspective, or you can just copy this query and save on your notepad basically to keep make it handy. Let's say tomorrow you want to again execute this kind of queries to get the error for the troubleshootings, so you can use that query, or better option is to just save these options, okay. So you don't need to go here and there in the notepad. You can simply just, if you just click on that, it will automatically pop up here with the whatever you have log group selected, and save it, okay. Let me show you another lambda function where I use a layer basically. Layer is basically that is a additional lambda function feature where you can segregate the your lambda function code and your dependent library basically. Let's say your python any PostgreSQL library, or any SDK packages over there, no dependent packages, or any MySQL related libraries. You if you check at the lambda function limitations, there are certain limitations basically. You can see on this page, okay, you can see the default quota, okay. And for the code editor means, what is the code editor basically? So let me open this parent function. Your code editor means this one, right, where you can write down the code basically, okay. So let's check that option. You can see all the limitations here, function memory allocation minimum 120 MB to maximum 10 GB basically. Function timeout, as we have seen, 15 minutes maximum, okay. If in the entry panel you might ask like any limitations for the lambda function or something for the just troubleshooting aspects, so at least you should aware about this. Function layers, we can use 5 layers basically for the particular lambda function we can attach. I want to show that code editor limit basically. You can see here console editor. Console editor limit is only 3 MB, okay. If you exceed your this code beyond the 3 MB size, okay, then in that situation you can't see this kind of code from the AWS console basically. Let me show you one of the lambda function. For now, just don't focus on the lambda function code basically. It might be different use cases. You can just simply find out on the Google for the any particular lambda function code. So as you can see here, I just tested for the one lambda function layer here, okay. So for this lambda function I am not able to see the code editor here because my size is exceeded beyond the this assigned limit, right? 3 MB console editor 3 MB limit. So you can check the size here. The package size is basically 8.4 MB basically. So in that situation, I am not able to, or I can't edit code basically here. Okay, you can see. And also it will shows the one info message here. The deployment package of your Lambda function is too large basically. Okay, you can definitely test here if you want to run, but you can't edit, you can't make change any, you can make it change here, as we have seen earlier Lambda function. So if I want to download this Lambda function just to show you, you can just simply from the action button just export it. Okay, download Lambda function. And if you look at the other limitation as well, like slash temp directory is basically, let's say you want to, whatever the operation you want to perform, or you want to store any temporary file during the operations. So Lambda function has a default this temp folder basically, where you can temporarily, not the permanent one, temporarily you can just for the file operations, like if you want to perform any file operation for the S3 bucket, writing the file from one operations to another one, another folder. So in that situation, this temp folder will use there basically. We can't manage, but just through the cdk sorry, Lambda function code, it will manage basically to store your temporary operations there. So this function has been downloaded, let me open it. So you can see there are lots of files and folders here. Okay, these are the dependent packages basically. You can see your pip library, package by SFTP, because this Lambda function is for to perform the SFTP operation, to check the files for the SFTP server, Linux server. So that dependent package required for this Lambda function, right? Otherwise it will give the error like no model found, something error. So in that situation we need to use this dependent packages here basically. So if you exceeded that packages size beyond this limitation basically, 3 MB console editor, in that situation you can't see or edit your Lambda function code directly here. Okay, so in that situation you can use layer feature basically. How we can make it layer feature? Just on the same service Lambda function, you can see here layers. Okay, so let me try to perform that same operation for this function. Okay, let me open this Lambda function in separate tab. SFTP, right? So you can see as of now I am not able to see the Lambda function code basically. Okay, so what we can do is we can segregate this Lambda function code and these dependent library packages in the we can use layer feature basically. Okay, so to use layer feature there are some certain process we need to follow. Lambda function layers, there is certain folder structure basically. It's a depend on if you are using Python, so there are different folder structure. If there are nodes or something, you need to configure that way. If you just click on this link, just scroll down a little bit, there is one folder structure basically. So basically when you bundle the your Lambda function code and your dependent packages basically, so you need to maintain one folder structure basically. You can't it club in a single folder. Packaging layers, yeah, this way. Let's say you have a Lambda function in node.js. Okay, so your folder structure should be this way. Main parent folder should be with the name node.js. Okay, then inside that you can attach your add your dependent packages inside the node modules basically. Okay, this one, this type. So let me try to that. And for the other lambda languages, Python, you can just see this way: Python lib and then package, your package name. For the Java, main folder name should be Java and then lib folder. Okay, otherwise it will not support the layer feature basically. So for this one, let's try to create that folder structure. This one we have, right? So let me extract it. And the same layer you can use to other lambda function as well. Okay, here it come. Okay, so what we can do is, if you look at the lambda function code, we can just simply open it in notepad, and you can see the basically your lambda function code, which is written in Python basically. Okay, it's required the dependent, py sftp package, boto 3 os or other, library basically. So we can create one more folder here according to your folder structure. Node.js. The code is for Python, but for the demo purpose, I'm just showing for the Node.js kind of way. Okay, Node.js, and inside that, what we need folder structure, node underscore modules. Okay, and inside that, all package should be there. Modules. Okay, let me save it.